Welcome to another episode of I Quit My Job. I'm Solely Plus One. And in this episode, we have no other than Philip Dwight Morgan. This guy's very accomplished in terms of a writer, journalist, outdoor adventurer, advocate. Of course, been published in the CBC, Maclean's, the Walrus 2019 winner, the Baldwin Wallace Award for Emerging Writers. And then on top of that, he cycled 7,700 kilometers plus across Canada. So we're going to talk to Phil and just find out about his journey. He's going to share his stories, some of the things that he's done. I was like floored when I heard it, but then as we kept meeting and kept seeing it and kept talking little by little, I started hearing more and more and more. So now I was like, okay, this is nuts. I got to put this cat on my podcast. I got to get him out here before he blows and start winning even more Pulitzer Prize winners and things like that. Thank you so much, man. I wanted to get that right. Thank you so much for coming out. I mean, it's probably been when did we decide? About a year, and it took you that long? About 6 months?
Well, 6 months, I would
About
say, yeah.
6 months. Amazing. So it does work. Persistence does work. And yeah, so we see each other at the local coffee shop, and got to know him. Very interesting brother. Tell me about that moment that made you decide to say, I'm shifting everything that I'm doing now. And before you jump into that moment, just kind of give us a background of who you are.
So, in terms of a background of who I am, I've bounced around a bunch of different jobs. I'm kind of like a Swiss Army knife when it comes to work. I wouldn't say that there's one thing I do particularly well, but I'm able to do a bunch of different things. And so I've worked in politics, I've been academic, I've done a bunch of manual labor stuff. I worked for TTC for 3 years, cleaning trains. I've done a bunch of different jobs and then bounced around and eventually landed in being a professional writer.
In these odd jobs, you may call them, to just be bouncing around. What was that moment of going into that field of journalism, that field of sharing your thoughts?
I I left a PhD in history and was kind of trying to figure out what the next steps were. I got offered a job doing bike tours around the world. And so I flew out to the training for that. And the training was a disaster. Just
God.
was not at all what I expected. It was not right fits. And so 3 weeks after I had sublet my apartment with my partner and everything else, I was back in Toronto. I quit a job that I had here at the time.
Right.
I'd done a bunch of things, like I'd uprooted my life to make this bike job work, and it didn't work at all.
So were you a writer, like, in your past time or something?
No, I came back and I was getting ready to go back to my old job.
Right.
And my partner Lauren, she said to me, "Don't go back. I don't believe in sort of going backwards.
Right.
You left for a reason. I have the means to support you for a couple of months while you figure out what the
Oh,
next
nice, nice,
are.
nice.
Figure it out." And this would have been in 2016, and this is when Black Lives Matter, and
Right.
there was all of this backlash that was happening. And so I've always been someone who just journaled, and so I journaled about it. I wrote to myself, Canadian media is so racist. Look at the way that they're covering that, and the other.
Right.
Finished writing it down, and then I opened my laptop, and there was a video from the States of a black man being gunned down by police, and my heart just sunk. And in that moment, I thought to myself, if ever there was a time to do something with your voice, now's the time. And so I typed out that journal entry that I had written, and I sent it to a news agency. And I said, "Hey, I have no idea if you have any interest in publishing this, whatever. I don't know how this works, but I wrote this thing. I think it's pretty good.
Mhm.
And, and like, if you don't publish it, don't worry. I'm just going to post it on Facebook." And they got back to me within a couple of hours.
Wow.
"We want to publish this. We want to make some changes to it to make it for like news. We're
Right.
going to publish this." So they published it,
Uh-huh.
and then it went viral.
Oh, shit.
And from that, then this small news agency is called
Right.
Ripple. They offered me a job, and they said, "Hey, do you wanna blog for us a couple times a month?"
Mhm.
And they said, "We can pay you," I think at the time it was like 10 cents a word. And I didn't even know anything about any of that.
Right.
So I just Googled, like, what's an acceptable rate for a journalist? And then the internet said 50 cents to a dollar per word. So I went back to Rabble and I said, "I want 50 cents or a dollar per word." And they said, "That's great, but we don't have that money." And
Right.
I said, "Okay, I'll take 10 cents." Started writing for them.
Right.
And based on the writing I was doing for them, then other places like CBC and Maclean's and other places started reaching out to me. And that's how I got into
Wow.
writing for these places.
Wow. Wow. So that's that moment. That's
That was
that
the moment.
like, how do you feel about that? That's amazing, brother.
Well, it's interesting because over over the years, the goalposts kind of shift. When that first piece went viral, I remember Lauren and I dancing around in our living room, just being like, "Holy crap, we can't believe this! People are sharing this, whatever." And it was just this mind-boggling thing. And now, like, for me to publish my work online, I don't wanna say I take it for granted, but it's not that I'm not dancing around every time I
Right, right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Yeah.
So did that increase your following? Did that even say to you, like, I'm here now?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. At a certain point, I actually made a decision to move away from some of that work that I was doing. So
Right,
that kind of established me as one person in Canada who's talking about racism,
right.
talking about anti-blackness and all of that.
Mhm.
And but I very quickly felt a little bit pigeonholed.
So was that like a letting go?
You have to find this delicate balance of you got to pay your bills, so
Right.
you need you need these organizations to support your work. But at the same time, you have to do it on your own terms because the vision that they have for you of like, this is what a black journalist should look like. These are the things that they should write about can be really restricting.
Right.
And so how do you balance this thing?
But, you know, it's so amazing too, like, every time I have somebody that's on here we're interviewing, they speak of that support system. Big up your girlfriend or big up your partner
Yeah.
for actually, taking that note and just, standing firm and knowing that there's a vision and helped you move ahead.
I think we all need people in in our corner who see our potential and see 'cause in my case, like I've never had any ambitions of being a writer. That was never a dream of mine. None of that. But Lauren saw the bigger picture and said, take time to figure it out. Like, I'm not always going to be in a position where I can cover you, but in this exact moment, I am.
Mhm.
Take the time and it's huge. It's huge because my life would look completely different had I not. Like, if I could have very easily gone back to my old job and been stuck there or whatever else, but instead, she gives me the support and space that I need to just like figure some stuff out. I write a thing, it goes viral, it sort of snowballs. So yeah, you just need people who are in your corner who see the bigger picture.
I understood that you rode across Canada, and but then when I heard about what you were doing, and especially as a black man, like what was that moment why you rode across Canada?
I've always felt a pull to explore and and like I'm a very curious person. So I always want to see places for myself. I want to just like get in there.
Mhm.
And I'm the kind of person where I really love having like a plan. So if someone says to me, "All right, Phil, you want to get in shape? Just do these 5 things every day to like that is the best scenario for me." So I was curious about Canada, was always sort of dropping hints at people saying, "I want to bike across Canada, I want to do this." And nobody was interested. And then finally, my friend Alex, we were training for a race together because I used to
Mhm.
run a lot. And I said to him, "I want to bike across Canada, but no one will do it." And he said, "I'll do it with you." And so we just started planning, and 2 months later, we left, and then we biked across the country. We flew from Hamilton, where we were living at the time, to Vancouver. We biked from Vancouver to St. John's, Newfoundland.
Right, that's amazing, man. So what kind of press and stuff did you get?
We didn't do any press. Like, we didn't it wasn't
That's
about
amazing.
it was literally just like, people kept saying to us, "Is there a charity? Is there this and that? Can we give you money?" And we're
Right.
like, "No, no, we're just doing this." And that's generally how I operate, to be honest, is I just quietly do the thing.
Mhm.
I don't do a lot of social media. I don't like, that's probably why, like, a lot of people aren't familiar with me.
Right.
One, I'm just like, I'm emerging in my career.
I'm sure it's a tough industry to get into. Like you said, you got to pay bills, and starting out as a writer maybe sometimes tough.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to someone that's looking at you and saying, "Hey, I'd love to do what he's doing. How do I get the courage to start that journey?"
Hmm. I think there's a lot of humility is required. Um,
Mhm.
because it's not an easy industry at all, and I think there's a lot of luck. There's a lot of just like you happen to meet the right person. So part of it is again making your intentions known and just letting people know, hey, I want to be a writer. Hey, this and that, and then just like eventually the people will hopefully find you. But also part of it is you have to really get good at your craft.
How do you get better as a writer?
There's a school of thought, and I'm very much of the school of thought that you can't be a writer without reading a lot and
Mhm.
reading widely. There are many people who want to be writers that just, I like writing. I'm a good writer, and they think that they're an island.
Right. That's why there's so many self-published books out there. Everybody's a writer.
Yeah, it is writing for sure. It is writing, and I mean also there's so many barriers within traditional publishing that I think self-publishing offers some really great avenues. But I think either way, whether it's you're with a big publisher, mid-size, self-published, whatever, work on your craft. Like, read other people's work. I came into writing with a very clear voice. And I think that that's part of what's helped me in my career.
Mhm.
So when I read other people and I encounter their voices, that's such a great way to talk about that thing. That's such a
Right.
smart approach to it or whatever. and I take some of that, bring it into my toolkit, and it
Right.
strengthens my voice, right?
Right.
So that's the work of a
Oh, that's
writer, to,
amazing.
like,
That's amazing.
constantly be reading other people to be like the other way I think about it is almost like rappers. It's like rappers they're all rapping. They
Right.
all have different flows. Right. All have
Right.
different they all have different rhyme schemes, they do whatever, right?
Right.
So it's like, how do I pick up the cadence of this person with the metaphors of this person, with the lyric? Like,
Right. Right.
how do you do that, right? And so that's the work of a writer, I think, is just like keep keep finding influences and
Mhm.
building your toolkit.
So now we get this. You're now a writer. What was that first day like?
I write across a variety of like genres. So
Mhm.
I'm a published journalist, but also I write poetry.
Right.
I'm recently into playwriting.
Right.
I write essays. So I write a bunch of different things.
Mhm.
I would say with journalism, once I started getting like some of these big, like the CBC, Maclean's, the Toronto Star, all of
Right.
that, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm doing this now.
So what was that moment? When did that come along? And like, or was it over time you looked at it and like, shit, I'm bigger than I thought.
I think it was like day one was honestly just kind of fake it till you make it, like getting approached. So I got approached by CBC and they said, "Hey, we want you to write for us." And freaked out a little bit, and then I thought, "How am I gonna pull this off?" And thank goodness for the internet, just like Googled a lot and just like read a bunch of stuff and tried to figure out how to like make my writing sort of fit the journalistic
Nice.
position.
Nice. So you did your research.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So was there any fear in that moment when actually doing it? Is it, did you like second guess yourself? Like, can I really pull this off?
For sure, yeah. One, in terms of the execution, just like, is this what they're looking for, et
Right.
cetera, and so you have to be able to receive feedback. There's definitely times where they're like, "This is not it."
And so what is your style? Like what is your style? Like I know you're a writer, journalist, and you go into blackness. So if I come to you for a piece, is it automatic you put your blackness in it to fit the piece? Is that how is that a style?
That's a good question. What I would say is, so that's like blackness is one of the topics that I address, but in terms of my style,
Hmm.
I would say that people have told me that I'm quite lyrical. With That's less so the case with journalism. Journalism, like, it's really about economy in writing and just being really precise with language.
Right.
But I think within journalism, I've really carved out a space for myself in the op-ed world. I mean, I also do profiles and I do a bunch of things, but I have a very strong voice, strong analysis, and it's usually about cutting through the noise. So a lot of whatever the mainstream opinion is,
Mhm.
I typically have a very different opinion of it and a more in-depth analysis of it. The noise and the sort of, dare I say, like propaganda,
Mhm.
sort of say, okay, folks, let's break this down into its individual parts. Let's really think through what we're saying.
Right.
Like that's kind of what I offer as a journal.
Oh, nice. So as a journalist, and this is what you're offering, and because you're offering it so well, you've won Bronwyn.
Yeah, Bronwyn. Yeah,
Bronwyn, explain what that is.
Bronwyn Wallace was a Canadian poet and essayist, also wrote across multiple genres and was really engaged in social justice work in addition to writing. And she passed away in 1989. And so I'm the first winner of the nonfiction category.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nonfiction. So it shows your creativity, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge honor to win the nonfiction award for an award that's been around for, 30 years. Yeah, it's like in their history book that, I am the winner of the first ever nonfiction prize.
Mhm.
And it's cool to just win an award that um is named after someone who I see a lot of alignment with. In terms of the piece that I wrote that I won the award for, I went to a national park in southern Ontario called Point Pelee,
Mhm.
and it's known for its birding. And so people travel all the time to just watch the birds.
Right.
And so I went with some friends and we got there at night. And so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. We just arrived in the night. We unpacked our stuff. We went into the cabin and that was that. It was only after about 4 days there when we were getting ready to leave that when we exited the national park, I saw that all around the national park, there are greenhouses.
Mhm.
And so I was just struck by the fact that you can be in this little bubble and just be birding all the time or whatever, completely unaware that all around you are all of these like migrant laborers that are growing food, that
Right.
are being exposed to pesticides and dangerous conditions and all of that. And so I wrote a piece about that contrast. One of the lines in the piece that I wrote is, white people can tell a difference between a labradoodle and a golden doodle, but they think we all look alike, right? So I quote that and then I say, I wonder if the same is true of migratory birds and migrant labor. Nature is not just nature is not neutral. It's not just like, okay, anybody can go bird, anybody can go, spend time in trees or whatever. There's a politics to it. There's a politics to who is seen as belonging in a space and who doesn't, and
Mhm.
all of that.
Right.
So those are the kinds of things that I think about all the time, and that I really felt at Point Pelee. I was like, oh, people are documenting birds and they're saying, okay, we saw this one and this one had this crest and whatever, but then they have no idea of the actual people
That are
that are,
there.
are that are around.
And so did you share any of that with your friends? Do they kind of follow the same social path as you or
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit. So I said to my friends, I was like, this is kind of weird. And then my way of processing things a lot of time is through writing.
Mm.
So I was like, I gotta write about this because my spidey sense is tingling, but I need to figure out how to write about this. And so then I just started journaling about it, and that eventually became the piece. I
Mhm.
submitted it. And yeah,
Nice. That became the piece that changed everything. What about certain points where there's a turning point and there's challenges and kind of change your perspective on things?
there's too many to name. There's too many.
Really?
Oh, for sure. Being a writer is just one, that's just the nature of that kind of work. But
Mm.
I think specifically being a Black writer,
Mhm.
that adds a layer of complexity to it. So for sure, there have been many times where I've had really intense doubt.
Right.
The biggest thing is I generally try to just not let the doubt creep in.
Mhm.
Easier said than done, but
Mhm.
I really try to work on like having a really strong mind and just being like, keep going, Phil.
Mm.
Because it doesn't matter what other people say, keep going. Every once in a while, that becomes even too much for me. And that's where I rely on my community and my partner, my friends to just, okay, Phil, take a deep breath.
Wow.
You got this.
We got this.
It actually, for me, reminds me of biking across Canada. Like my friend Alex and I put 135 kilometers every day on our body for 2 months.
So where'd you guys stay? Did you guys have a tent? Like
We
how did that?
camped for most.
Right? And you brought your own tent.
Yeah.
Aerodynamic tent with no sponsors or anything of that
No
nature?
sponsors, nothing. We just went for
Wow.
it.
That's amazing, brother. That no, seriously, that's amazing.
The journeys are paralleled in the sense that like if you try to think about like when you first think about biking across Canada, it's overwhelming. But if you think about I need to get through today,
Right.
and then you do that day after day, it's still really hard, but it becomes possible in a way that thinking about 8,000 kilometers is not, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with writing. People are like, I want to write 8 books and I want this, and then I want to win all the
No, I hear it. I hear it all the
but
time.
like sure, it's great to have that vision, but
Mhm.
also day to day, there's certain
Right.
things that you need to do to get there.
To get there. Right. So you're always working on your craft.
Always.
So how does that shape you when you're writing more about your blackness and things of that nature? How does that shape you?
I think about blackness constantly.
Right.
I think that the image of blackness that I would have would be very narrow. And then two, there would be this pressure to fit into that net. The reality is that blackness is so rich. There's so many different types of blackness. There's so many different ways that people show up. There's so many things. I'm not going to operate from this scarcity mindset of like there's only room for one black writer.
Right.
I believe that there's so much work and writing and thought to be done around blackness.
Right.
And so I have my own particular insights about it as someone who's Black and spends a lot of time in nature. And so I'm gonna write about these things. I also write a lot about policing, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
write about these particular things. But I
Mhm.
know that that's just like a small slice
Right.
of all the work that could be done.
Right.
And so I just
Right.
trust that like hopefully I'm part of contributing to opening up a space where more people can talk about Black. And I've even had Black folks in communities say to me like, "Thanks for that piece you wrote, but also just remember you don't speak on behalf of all Black people." Yeah, cool. Like, I think when it comes to writing about it, we can talk about the ways in which, like, white supremacy in Canada operates against Blackness.
Mhm.
Like, so whether you're African, whether you're Caribbean, whether you're whatever, in Canada,
Right.
we are read as Black.
Right. Right.
But when it comes to talking in community, then I wanna sort of flesh out these differences of like, okay, but where are you from?
Mhm.
And ask where are you from a place of genuine curiosity, not
Right.
the way that, like, a lot of white people ask, where they're like, "But where are you really from?"
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But actually, there's differences
Right.
between Jamaica and St. Vincent,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So, like
Yes.
so it's all about who you're talking to, who the audience is, what the context is.
Right.
Like, that's I don't think Blackness is, like, a nationality. I think it's an
Right.
identity that white supremacy uses against us.
Right. What do you know now that you learned throughout your journey?
It sounds so cliche, but I was gonna say just trust the process.
Mhm.
And also, like, lately I've been living by the mantra. what is meant for you won't miss you.
Right.
Because I think that people sometimes treat writing as if it's like, I don't know, becoming an influencer or something, and it's like,
Right.
"Okay, well, I need to network, I need to do this and that, whatever." And this is no shade to influencers, like, I think that that's great,
It's funny you say that, you know?
you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm not gonna pretend as though networking and writing doesn't help you or whatever, but I think that when people think that that is the work of writing, where
Right.
they put all their energy
Right.
or the vast majority of their energy, that leads them down a path that I don't think is a good one. Do the work, show up daily, and and write because you wanna write, not because you have dreams of becoming the biggest writer and the biggest name and a celebrity and all the rest of it.
Mhm.
Like, write because you feel like you need to write,
Right.
and then trust that things will line up as they need to.
So what's happening for you these days?
I just write the things that I want to write, and so I'm working on a book right now,
Okay.
and so I'm living off of the advancement of that book.
Right.
I just try not to concern myself with what other people are saying.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to do what I need to do,
Mhm.
and I have a very clear again, I have a very clear voice as a writer. I have a very
Right.
clear idea of what I'm trying to do,
Right.
and so it's about me showing up day in and day out and putting the words on the page to get
I love that, man. I love everything that you're doing. I love the fact that you're excelling in your career path, second career path.
there.
What's the book you're reading now?
I'm reading I'm reading a few different books right now. I'm usually reading about 3 books at a time. I'm reading a novel called, Batshit 7 right now that's really great, and I'm really noticing the way that, like, that particular writer, they use a lot of short sentences and, like, just and there's a lot of cultural, like, references, like, there's
Right.
it's really rich, so I'm writing that.
Mhm.
I just finished a book of essays called, Everything and Nothing at All,
Right.
which is really great,
Mhm.
and then I usually have I usually try to mix it up, so do, like, a novel and then do either nonfiction or, like, do, like, essays or like, nonfiction to do a deep dive into a subject,
Right.
and then some poetry just for the language of poetry.
Okay.
Those 3 things, that's kind of how I keep building my writing and sharpening.
Oh, nice, nice. So there's some tools right there that you just dropped. Some nice gems on how you stay focused. So it's more reading,
Read all the time,
read all the time.
learn from other people, study writing. Can I say one thing really quickly?
You can say anything you want slowly too.
For me, so writing first is about dreaming. Have a dream. I don't mean a dream in terms of a career.
Right.
Have a dream in terms of a thing that you want to say, an idea that you want to try and capture, whatever.
Hmm.
Then writing is about like whatever that dream is, when you put words to it, you inevitably lose some of it in translation. Like you're
Right.
not going to be able to do a perfect one-to-one sort of copy of
Right.
that dream. So the reading, the research, all that stuff that you're doing, the building of your toolbox is all about trying to get a better picture, a better copy of that dream.
Oh, nice,
You're constantly
nice.
you're just refining the skills so you can get a more detailed image. So that's what it is. So it's like you have to have the audacity to dream a thing, and then the audacity to try and get it on the page, and then the discipline.
So Phil, I want to really thank you so much, man. I'm blown away a little bit inspired by, and this young cat, good looking dude, and I'm a little bit inspired by you, man. I think what you're doing is amazing, and I love the way you approach it, very humble. And you're doing amazing things. Like that's so great.
I have a play that I'm working on. I'm an arts and culture editor for a newspaper. I'm working on a book of essays. At some point, I'll return to poetry. So there's no shortage of writing that's coming in the future.
And again, thank you so much for coming on, brother. This is so amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Peace.